Did Nicole Kidman just drop the ultimate passive-aggressive bomb on her ex, Keith Urban? Less than 2 agonizing weeks after she filed the paperwork to officially dismantle their 19-year forever fantasy, the Oscar queen is detailing exactly how she's thriving. She's not just surviving, folks, she's handling it. In a spicy October 9th interview for Harper's Bazaar, the actress spilled the tea on why the best part of getting older is mastering the art of the comeback. Nicole claims that accumulating experience means, "Oh, I've been here before. I actually know how to handle this now. Or, even better, I've experienced something similar to this, and I do know that I will get through it." She's been through worse than a country singer with cold feet. The practical magic sorceress adds, "There's something to knowing that no matter how painful, or how difficult, or how devastating something is, there is a way through." We're reading between the lines. This is her victory speech over the man who dared to call their marriage a job. Picture this cinematic betrayal. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, the Hollywood golden statue and the country cowboy, posing flawlessly on the red carpet. They smiled like their life was sponsored by perfect lighting. But behind those dazzling teeth, a 19-year love affair was quietly disintegrating. He, the superstar who once crooned about forever, and she, the queen who actually believed it. Somewhere between the relentless world tours, the mandatory red carpet couple time, and the inevitable whispered distance, their epic fairy tale went stale. And the moment Keith dismissed their sacred union as a mere job, the entire internet knew this wasn't just a regular celebrity breakup. This is the tragic, slow-motion collapse of the one love story the cynics finally bought into. So stop scrolling immediately, mash that subscribe button, and don't you dare move. The real gritty truth behind the Nicole and Keith implosion is darker and more manipulative than anyone predicted. It all started back in 2005 at the infamous G-Day USA Gala. That was the glittering, high-stakes Aussie networking event where stars go to pose and secretly find their next spouse. For Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, that night was electric. A genuine spark ignited. She was the vulnerable Oscar winner, still recovering from a devastatingly public divorce. He was the charming, magnetic country idol, radiating rebel energy and a soft, intoxicating accent. They locked eyes. They chatted. They exchanged numbers, and the entire room felt the cosmic shift. But then the betrayal. Absolutely nothing. Keith didn't call. Not for a week. Not for a month. He ghosted her for 4 whole months. Nicole later confessed she instantly thought, he's just not interested in the Oscar winner. Little did the queen know, he wasn't uninterested. He was terrified. Terrified of messing up something that felt too sacred to be real. But when he finally worked up the courage to dial those numbers, their world went into overdrive. By 2006, they were a full-fledged global obsession. Keith was constantly flying to her movie sets. Nicole was the unexpected muse at his concerts, and the cameras simply couldn't get enough. That June, under a sky ignited with the soft glow of candles and hushed whispers, they took the ultimate plunge in Sydney. It was no bloated Hollywood spectacle, believe me. It was raw, fiercely intimate, and the definition of heartbreakingly romantic. Nicole was draped in lace, and Keith, he was visibly dissolving into tears, grasping her hand like he genuinely knew she was his final lifeline. Fans around the globe officially christened them the real-life country love story. The rugged Nashville cowboy and the Australian movie royalty who had finally, irrevocably, found home in each other. And for what felt like years, the illusion was flawless. Every red carpet appearance featured hands securely clasped. Every award show was punctuated by stolen glances and those famously soft, devoted smiles. In every interview, Keith would blush and genuinely gush, "I'm madly in love." Nicole would simply call him her everything. The intensity was undeniable. It was the kind of love that made even the most hardened cynics start searching for wedding venues. They seemed utterly untouchable, as if pure love had finally and decisively beaten the grim odds of Hollywood. But what the cameras, the fans, and even the couple didn't grasp was that this perfect fairy tale was about to crack, and it would happen quietly, agonizingly, and right in the public eye. Just 4 devastating months after that breathtaking Sydney wedding, the honeymoon glow didn't just fade, it vanished. Nicole Kidman, the radiant new bride, began sensing something chillingly off. Keith Urban, the charming, passionate musician who had finally secured her heart, suddenly seemed distant, evasive, and profoundly different. And soon the brutal, gut-wrenching truth came crashing down. Keith was battling crippling substance abuse. This wasn't some flimsy tabloid rumor or cheap Hollywood gossip. It was a stark, cold reality, and Nicole was absolutely blindsided. She had just finished writing her Happily Ever After, only to realize the man she adored was quietly fighting his own personal demon. Most people in her position, armed with her money and fame, would have immediately retreated. But not Nicole. She instantly pivoted and chose to fight fiercely for him and for the life they had just sworn to build. One agonizing night, surrounded only by their inner circle of friends and family, she did the one thing most wives could never fathom doing just months after saying their vows. She orchestrated a non-negotiable intervention. No cameras were allowed, no PR machine was activated, and there was no script, just raw, painful, desperate honesty. She didn't argue. She simply begged him to seek immediate help. And to his immense credit, he listened. He checked straight into rehab and began the grueling, punishing process of recovery. For 3 long, agonizing months, they were separated. No grand public declarations were issued, no glossy interviews given, just silence, slow, agonizing healing, and deep heartbreak. The world naturally went into a frenzy, with headlines screaming about trouble in paradise. But what the public completely failed to see was the quiet, immense strength it took Nicole to sustain that fragile love. Nicole would later confess her only singular goal was simply to see him healthy. Not rich, not famous, not flawless, just breathing and alive. When Keith finally emerged from rehab, he faced the cameras and delivered the one statement that truly broke every heart watching. He called the ordeal the hardest but best thing that ever happened. And the script confirms it was. That harrowing moment didn't just test them. It fundamentally forced their marriage to evolve from a red carpet romance into brutal, permanent survival mode. They didn't just survive it. They emerged irrevocably changed. They were closer, yes, and undoubtedly tougher. But the shiny, effortless sparkle of their early romance had been permanently tested by something brutally, undeniably real. They had seen each other's absolute rock bottom and had crawled out together. For a tense period, it genuinely felt like that horrific struggle had made them completely unbreakable. The high-stakes, high-profile couple who had gambled and nearly lost everything were now clinging to each other tighter than ever before. Or so the world wanted to believe. Because even though they won that terrifying first battle against addiction, the relentless, slow-motion war for their actual marriage was only just beginning. Then, the promised healing arrived. Heartbreak gave way to fragile hope, and Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban actually seemed finally to be living out the love story they had fought so hard to write. Everything shifted dramatically in 2008 with the arrival of their first daughter, Sunday Rose. Nicole called her an absolute gift, a legitimate miracle. After years of desperately longing to be a mother again, Keith was right there, every single step of the way. He wasn't just the famous absent husband. He became the ultimate hands-on dad, flying halfway across the world between grueling tour dates just to make it to one tiny ultrasound appointment. He completely ignored the clamor of the cameras and the chaos of celebrity. He only cared about hearing that microscopic heartbeat. When Sunday was finally born, their entire world softened. The relentless pressure of the music, the fame, the endless demands, it all faded into the background behind family life. 2 years later, in 2010, their perfect family unit expanded again with the arrival of Faith Margaret, born via surrogate. Nicole declared she felt blessed beyond words. And Keith? He simply stated that being a father had fundamentally made him a better man. They quietly constructed a fiercely private life in Nashville, far removed from the brutal flashbulbs of Hollywood, ensuring their girls could grow up with genuine Southern muddy boots and the soundtrack of country music surrounding them. Their few public interviews shifted entirely, pivoting from red carpet gossip to gentle bedtime stories. Crucially, their smiles finally looked authentically real again. To the entire watching world, they had done the impossible. They had successfully conquered addiction, distance, and career doubt, and had finally found their permanent happily ever after. But life, that relentless villain, always has one final vicious twist planned. In 2014, tragedy struck with a devastating blow when Nicole's beloved father, Dr. Anthony Kidman, passed away completely unexpectedly. The devastating loss crippled her. He had been her quiet rock, her unwavering biggest supporter. And yet again, in that crucial moment, Keith was immediately and completely there. He canceled everything, his ongoing tour, all his commitments, and immediately flew straight to Sydney to be by her side. At the funeral, he bravely stood before the shattered mourners, guitar in hand, and sang the hymn Amazing Grace. There were no stage lights, no mandatory audience applause, just a husband, utterly broken for his wife, desperately trying to comfort her the only way he knew how. His voice visibly cracked, his eyes glistened with unshed tears, and when he looked directly at Nicole, he was not a star or a performer. He was simply a man loving her through unimaginable grief. The world devoured those images, the raw tears, the quiet, immense strength, and instantly declared, that is what real love looks like. For years following that tragedy, they remained the undisputed blueprint, the Hollywood couple who actually made it. Every red carpet appearance, every anniversary, every sickeningly sweet interview where they couldn't stop showering each other with compliments, simply reinforced the myth. Keith once publicly confessed, "She's my safe place." Nicole countered, calling him her soulmate. They genuinely seemed untouchable, as though their ferocious love had finally and comprehensively beaten the crushing Hollywood odds. Every glossy photo told the same perfect story: laughter, devotion, and unbreakable family. From the outside looking in, it was a flawless picture. It truly looked like their happy ending had definitively arrived. But here's the savage truth. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories don't end with a furious bang or a public scandal. They simply fade quietly behind closed doors when the cameras stop rolling, and the forced smiles don't quite reach the eyes anymore. For almost a decade, Nicole and Keith were Hollywood's living, breathing proof that lasting love existed, until the cracks began to reappear. By 2024, the structural flaws behind the curtain were becoming impossible to conceal. The mandatory red carpet couple appearances slowed to a trickle. The cozy, intimate interviews vanished. Suddenly, Nicole and Keith were blatantly leading two completely separate lives. She was chained to back-to-back projects, filming across Europe. He was perpetually on his solo tour, flying relentlessly from city to city with zero public mention of home. Fans immediately clocked the seismic shift. Fewer joint photos, zero date nights, and when they did post anything, it looked aggressively polished, distant, and completely rehearsed. Then the whispers turned into a legitimate roar. Keith had reportedly secured a separate place in Nashville, conveniently close to the family mansion. Some argued it was just a work studio. Others, more cynically, insisted it was his escape route for when things got tense. Regardless of the excuse, something had fundamentally changed. Then, Nicole delivered the gut punch interview to Entertainment Weekly, stating softly, "You think you know where your life is going, and then it isn't." No public denial, no frantic drama, just the quiet, devastating honesty of a woman accepting her fate. Fans immediately froze. This wasn't an actress hawking a movie. This was a woman desperately trying to make peace with an ending she never saw coming. But the words that sealed the deal came from Keith's mouth. On The Amanda Keller Show, when asked if he believed fate was responsible for bringing them together, he stammered and hesitated just long enough for the awkward silence to envelop everyone, before meekly muttering, "No idea." He squirmed, he fidgeted, he frantically changed the subject, and the internet exploded. The man who once declared, "I'm madly in love," was gone. Next up was the infamous Ryan Seacrest interview. Ryan asked the question everyone dreaded. How do you keep the marriage strong after all these years? Keith forced a smile, but it was a cold, unfamiliar smirk. He simply forced out the three lethal words. "It's a job." Just those three words, delivered flatly, landed like a brutal public confession. Fans immediately hit rewind, obsessively replaying the clip hundreds of times. The tone was dead. The warmth was utterly absent. As one savage headline from People magazine perfectly summarized, Keith Urban didn't need to actually say the marriage was over. The glow, the famous chemistry, The fairy tale facade. It had all evaporated, leaving behind two exhausted people who once fought the world for their love, now simply fighting to let it go. And then came the deafening silence. No urgent public statements were issued. No frantic explanations were offered. Just absolute, heavy nothingness. For a couple who once couldn't stop gushing about their devotion, that silence spoke entire, tragic volumes. Their final stiff joint photo was captured in early September, where they were smiling. Yes, but with that strange, undeniable tension that fans instantly recognized. Since that moment, they've definitively chosen separate paths. When Keith surfaced for a follow-up interview and was pressed about his personal life, he didn't even bother to deny or defend anything. He just offered a slight detached smile and simply stated, "Life's in session." Simple, coldly detached, yet overwhelmingly powerful. Translation: he has fully accepted the reality, and he is moving on. And the ensuing silence from Nicole? It's even louder. Her final public comment about Keith was made months earlier. "He's my deep, deep love." Those beautiful words now feel less like a declaration, and more like the heartbroken goodbye she hadn't realized she was speaking. The Hollywood couple who once shared every intimate detail is now speaking volumes by deliberately saying nothing at all. But beneath the avalanche of headlines and the brutal reality of the heartbreak exists the raw human side. This is the crucial part that the gossip vultures forget when they are busy dissecting a celebrity love story. We're talking about 19 years of life, 2 precious daughters, countless miles logged, suffocating schedules, mandatory red carpets, and endless nights spent thousands of miles apart. Fame promises glamour, but relentless distance is a cancerous tumor that silently devours genuine connection. They managed to beat the horrifying odds for almost 2 brutal decades, but even the strongest, most passionate love story can't outrun the crushing weight of time and logistics forever. What they built was profoundly real, and now they are quietly, fiercely protecting what little remains: their family. Both stars are reportedly laser-focused on their daughters, choosing to co-parent privately and keep their shattered peace far from the hungry spotlight. Nicole was recently photographed looking calm and serene at Paris Fashion Week, hand in hand with her girls. No drama, no public sadness, just the quiet beginning of a new chapter. Because sometimes the final chapter of a love story doesn't end with a spectacular, angry fight. It just quietly softens. It eventually fades. And it finally morphs into a quiet, painful gratitude for what they were once lucky enough to share. Naturally, the internet immediately exploded the second the fans understood the gravity of what was truly happening. A surprising number of people genuinely applauded Keith's difficult, quiet honesty, claiming it took a great deal of maturity to walk away without a public spectacle. But the internet's rage machine demanded justice, arguing that Nicole deserved so much more clarity, more public closure, and significantly more respect after standing by him through the nightmare of rehab and addiction. Naturally, the comment sections devolved into full-scale, aggressive debates. One fan sarcastically typed, "He looked completely checked out months ago." Another fan, trying to find the good, countered, "Maybe they're just protecting their kids." And honestly, in this cold, strange Hollywood separation, both brutal theories could easily be true. The meticulous timing of everything only fueled the dark speculation. People immediately noticed how Keith's flat interviews, Nicole's sudden solo appearances, and the whispers about their separate homes seemed to perfectly align. Many true believers insisted the split had already been finalized months before the world was officially allowed to catch on. Strangely, however, the overall tone surrounding the demise of their marriage isn't cruel or vicious. It's profoundly nostalgic, because for nearly 2 solid decades, Keith and Nicole forced millions of jaded people to believe in the absolute magic of lasting celebrity love. And now, that hard-won belief feels utterly shattered. The truth is, sometimes a massive love story doesn't end with a public, definitive betrayal. It ends with a cold, hollow silence. Keith never publicly confessed to anything scandalous. He simply stopped defending the fairy tale. That terrifying resignation was the moment everyone finally knew this split was tragically, brutally real. So, the question remains. When a marriage ends with 3 detached words and total silence, was that the ultimate sign of profound respect for their shared history? Or was it the sound of a man drowning in regret? Go ahead, drop your thoughts below right now, because this heartbreaking collapse has definitively left Hollywood divided. This is Celeb X, and we're here for the moment Hollywood's perfect fairy tales violently collide with the ugly truth behind the curtain.